most people, they think their week goes off the rails somewhere around like Wednesday afternoon.
Oh, for sure. The classic midweek slump.
Right. You hit that slump, your inbox is just totally overflowing, and you realize you haven't touched any of your actual priorities.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the research we're digging into today, your week is actually lost before you even open your first email on Monday morning.
It is a pretty sobering realization, to be honest,
Yeah.
but it's incredibly accurate. So for this deep dive, we are unpacking a Monday primer called Fuel Your Focus.
And that's by Terrence Williams, right?
Exactly. He refers to himself as a transformational architect. And his core argument is that we lose control of the week because we start it in a state of reaction.
Like we just wake up and brace for impact.
Basically, yeah, we wake up and immediately start defending ourselves against the day rather than, actually preparing for it.
Which means our mission for you today is pretty vital. We are figuring out how to take control of your week before it takes control of you.
That's the goal.
But I do have to ask, isn't reacting just a necessary part of being a functioning adult? Like, if my boss emails me at 8 a.m., I have to react. That is just the job.
Well, you're right. Reaction is definitely a part of life. The problem Williams identifies isn't that we sometimes react.
Right.
It's that reaction has become our default permanent state. He uses a very specific word for this, actually. He calls it the drift.
Drift.
Yeah. He writes, "You don't drift into a better life. You decide your direction."
That implies something really passive, like you're just sort of floating along.
Exactly. And drifting is insidious because it doesn't feel like a mistake in the moment. When you're drifting, you are just going with the flow of the demands around you.
It's comfortable.
It is. It requires zero immediate proactive effort. You're just answering the next email, taking the next phone call, putting out whatever the next fire is.
But you're entirely at the mercy of the current. It really makes me think of opening an email inbox first thing on a Monday morning.
Oh, totally. The worst feeling.
Right. The literal second you open it, you are instantly stripped of your own agency. You're forced to play defense against everyone else's priorities.
You're drifting on their current.
Exactly. So I'm struggling to see how we actually catch ourselves in the act of drifting when the current of a busy professional life feels so overwhelmingly strong.
Well, that is the real danger of the drift. It feels like productivity. Activity masks the drift.
Wait, activity masks it.
Yeah. You can be incredibly busy, totally exhausted by 5 p.m., and still have spent the entire day just drifting. Overcoming it requires a hard, conscious stop.
Okay, so a complete halt.
You have to force a pause to decide your direction. You can't just gently steer out of a river's current. You have to drop an anchor to halt your momentum entirely.
So if anchoring is the mental realization that we need to stop reacting, how do we, actually translate that into our Monday morning reality?
That's where things get practical.
Because Williams provides a specific grounding principle here, doesn't he?
He does. Before getting into any real scheduling tactics, he anchors the entire concept with a quote from Proverbs 16.3.
Which says what?
It says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established."
I want to look closely at the mechanics of this, regardless of where someone listening might fall on the spectrum of faith or personal theology.
Right, the principle underneath it.
Yeah, because there is a universal order of operations happening in that sentence. Daily tasks just have to be aligned with a higher purpose before the calendar dictates the day's value.
There is a very clear cause and effect relationship there. It's a two-part equation, really.
Okay, break that down for us.
So on the front end, you have the act of commitment, of surrender, commit your work. It's an active, intentional choice to align what you were doing with a higher, overarching purpose.
But let me challenge the back end of that equation for a second. Your plans will be established part.
Sure.
Because when I hear the word established, I immediately think of something rigid, like something set in stone.
Oh, I can see that.
If my weekly plan is strictly established on Monday morning, what happens when a genuine crisis pops up on Tuesday afternoon? Does the whole established plan just shatter?
That's a really great distinction to make. In this context, established doesn't mean rigid or inflexible. It means stable.
Stable, okay.
Think of the difference between a leaf and a deeply rooted tree in a storm.
Oh, I like that.
The leaf drifts wherever the wind blows. That's a reactive week. The tree sways, it adapts to the wind, but it remains established because it has deep roots.
Because of the anchor.
Exactly. Williams is arguing that the stability of your week, your ability to weather those Tuesday crises without losing your mind, is directly dependent on that initial front-end commitment to a higher purpose.
Okay, I see. So if you don't anchor your work to a higher purpose, whether that's your core values, your family, your long-term vision, then you literally have no filter.
Not at all.
Every single notification on your phone just feels like a survival threat. Everything is equally urgent, which means nothing is actually important.
Exactly. If your calendar dictates the value of your day, your value fluctuates wildly with every canceled meeting or unexpected delay.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But if your purpose dictates your value, the calendar simply goes back to being just a tool.
Which perfectly sets up the transition from this philosophical mindset into the actual execution. Because realizing you need an anchor is one thing,
Right.
but figuring out what to do next requires a compass. And Williams introduces this highly practical tool called the F-cubed framework.
Yes, the F-cubed framework.
Focus, finish, and forward.
This is the core engine of his strategy. Let's break down the pillars, starting with the first one, which is focus.
Okay.
Williams asks the reader, what's the one priority that matters most this week?
See, I have to push back on this pretty hard.
Go for it.
Just one priority. I mean, in the real world, you and I, and the person listening to this right now, we usually have a dozen things demanding our attention by 9 a.m.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a boss, I have clients, I have personal obligations. Isn't telling people to narrow their focus down to just one priority, setting them up for failure? It just feels totally detached from reality.
It's a very common reaction, and honestly, if he were telling you to only do one thing all week, you'd be absolutely right.
Because that would be impossible.
It would be.
Yeah.
But look at the specific language Williams uses. He doesn't say you only do one thing. He asks what matters most.
Okay, but practically, how do I actually choose that one thing when everything is screaming that it's urgent?
You're doing something very specific here. You are establishing a hierarchy of attention.
A hierarchy of attention.
Yeah. When you have 50 things on your weekly to-do list, they aren't actually all equal, even if they feel like they are. Choosing a single focus acts as a filter.
Oh, I see.
It helps you decide which of those 50 things gets your absolute best cognitive energy and which ones just get done with whatever energy is left over.
So it's not about ignoring the other 49 tasks.
Not at all. It's about ensuring the most important thing doesn't get buried under the rubble of the urgent things.
Right.
When deciding what that focus should be, you have to ask yourself, which of these tasks actually moves the needle on my long-term goals, and which tasks merely manage the status quo?
And the needle mover is the focus.
The one that moves the needle is your focus.
That makes the concept a lot more functional. It's kind of like a lighthouse. You still have to navigate the rocks, the waves, the storms, and those are your daily emails and meetings.
That's a great way to put it.
But the lighthouse gives you an ultimate point of reference, so you don't lose your bearings and all that chaos.
Precisely. Now, the second pillar in the framework shifts the perspective entirely. It's finish.
Finish.
Yeah. Williams asks, what unfinished task needs your attention?
I find this fascinating because we just talked about focusing on this big, needle-moving priority for the future of the week. Why is he suddenly asking us to look backward at something we haven't finished?
Because of the massive toll unfinished tasks take on our cognitive load.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there's actually a term for this in psychology. It's called the zygarnic effect. It's the tendency for our brains to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense. It's like leaving 50 tabs open on your internet browser.
Yeah.
Even if you're only looking at one tab, the other 49 are secretly draining your computer's memory in the background.
That is a perfect analogy. Unfinished tasks like the email you haven't replied to, the difficult phone call you're avoiding, the garage you haven't cleaned out.
The garage is a big one.
Right. They sit in the back of your mind, eating up your processing power. They create this low-level chronic anxiety.
I know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
There's an actual physical weight to procrastination.
Right, totally.
And conversely, the feeling of finally sending that one email I've been putting off for 3 weeks is incredible.
Yeah.
The relief is just palpable.
Exactly. So by explicitly naming one unfinished task and committing to finishing it this week, Williams is forcing you to close a loop.
Closing the tabs.
Yes. Closing that loop frees up the mental RAM you desperately need to actually execute your main focus. It creates immediate psychological momentum. You prove to yourself that you can complete things.
Which leads right into the third pillar, forward.
Right. Forward.
And Williams asks, what's one step you can take toward your future today?
Notice the shift in the time frame here. This is crucial for how the framework operates.
Time frame.
Yeah. The focus is a destination for the week. The finish is clearing debris from the past. But the forward is highly immediate. It is about today.
Today.
Just today.
What is one step you can take today toward your future?
I feel like people get completely paralyzed when they think about their future because the gap between where they are and where they want to be is just so massive.
It's overwhelming.
Like if my goal is to write a book, sitting down on a Monday morning and thinking about the book is terrifying.
It induces paralysis.
Yeah.
That's why the language is one step. It's the concept of micro-progress.
Just one step. You aren't trying to build the entire house today, you're just laying one brick. You are making the barrier to entry so low that it's almost impossible to fail.
It fundamentally changes your relationship with long-term goals.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a visionary every single day. You just have to take a single step forward.
Exactly.
So when you combine these three, focus, finish, forward, you have a comprehensive map for the week. You have your lighthouse, you're closing the draining loops of the past, and you are laying one brick today.
But having the map isn't enough to get you to the destination.
True.
We have to look at why this F-cubed framework actually works in practice, not just in theory. Williams breaks down the mechanics of this process with a really potent sequence.
What's the sequence?
He writes, direction creates momentum. Momentum creates progress.
Let's spend some time on this because momentum is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot in, professional development.
Constantly.
But we rarely talk about the actual physics of how it's generated. Think about trying to push a stalled car. Have you ever been stuck on the side of the road and had to actually push a dead vehicle?
I have, unfortunately. It is an absolute miserable experience.
It is the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And the hardest part of pushing a stalled car is the very first millisecond. You have to point a steering wheel that's setting your direction.
Right.
And then you have to put your entire body weight into the trunk, using every ounce of your strength just to overcome the friction of those heavy, dead tires.
You're just straining against dead weight.
Exactly. You might push with all your might for 5 seconds just to get the car to move a single inch.
Right.
You are expending maximum energy for a minimum result.
But then a physics shift happens.
Yes. Once the tires complete that first full rotation, it gets drastically easier. The car starts rolling.
And that is momentum.
That's momentum.
Oh.
Once you have momentum, the actual journey down the street, the progress, requires a fraction of the effort it took to get started. You can almost just lean against the trunk and keep the car moving with one hand.
This connects brilliantly back to the concept of the drift from the beginning of our deep dive.
Oh, how so?
Well, drifting is the exact opposite of progress, even though both involve movement. Because a drift lacks a defined, intentional direction, it can never generate true momentum.
You're just bobbing on the wave.
Exactly. You might be exhausted from moving all day, but you aren't making actual progress.
Because activity does not equal achievement. You can spin your tires in the mud all day long and go nowhere.
Precisely. The F-cubed framework, identifying your focus, your finish, and your forward. That is you getting behind the stalled car, pointing the steering wheel, and giving it that first agonizing shove.
It's the hard part.
It requires a tremendous amount of intentional, proactive energy on a Monday morning. But once you overcome that initial friction, the momentum takes over. Suddenly, progress becomes the natural, almost effortless result of your direction.
But understanding the physics of progress is completely useless if you don't have a catalyst to start the movement.
That's very true.
You can sit on the side of the road and completely understand the physics of a stalled car, but until you actually put your hands on the trunk and push, you're just a pedestrian.
Which is why Williams concludes his primer by shifting from these psychological frameworks to immediate, actionable demands. He issues a direct challenge to the reader.
And this is the challenge for you listening right now. Williams says, write down your focus, finish, and forward before noon today.
Before noon.
And, crucially, keep them visible every day.
He actually pairs this physical act of writing with a mental framing exercise. He includes a confession to read as you do this.
What does the confession say?
It says, "This week I choose purpose over pressure. My mind is focused, my priorities are clear, and every step I take moves me closer to God's purpose for my life."
I want to really dig into that first phrase. I choose purpose over pressure.
It's a strong phrase.
Because I know there are people listening right now thinking, my computer monitor is already covered in 10 different sticky notes.
Right, what's one more going to do?
Exactly. How is putting my F-cubed list on one more sticky note going to miraculously save my week. Why does Williams emphasize keeping this list constantly visible? Why not just write it in a journal and put it in your desk drawer?
Well, to understand that, we have to look at how human beings process pressure versus how we process purpose.
Okay.
Pressure is primal. Pressure is the urgent email from your boss, the ringing phone, the sudden deadline. It attacks you from the outside, and it triggers a very real survival instinct in the brain.
A survival instinct.
Yeah, to your nervous system, a ringing phone feels like a predator. It demands immediate reaction.
So pressure essentially hijacks our attention.
Completely hijacks it. Purpose, on the other hand, requires higher cognitive functioning. It comes from the inside.
It's not a predator.
Right. It's proactive, it's thoughtful, and abstract. It doesn't trigger your survival instincts. Because pressure is loud, immediate, and tied to survival, it will always easily drown out your quiet internal purpose.
Okay, so how does a piece of paper fight back against a primal survival instinct?
By taking your F-cubed list and making it highly visible, like taping it to your monitor, putting it on your bathroom mirror, making it the lock screen on your phone.
Right.
You are externalizing your purpose. You are giving it a physical presence in your environment to compete with the physical presence of the pressure.
Ah, it's a visual interceptor.
Exactly. When the phone rings and the pressure spikes, your eyes catch that sticky note. It intercepts the primal reaction before it turns into a full-blown drift.
Wow.
It is a physical external cue that forces your higher brain to snap back online and evaluate the situation.
It's essentially a circuit breaker for your stress. That is brilliant. If your goals are hidden in a closed notebook, you have to actively remember to go look for them while you are already under attack by pressure.
Which you won't do.
Right. But if they are right next to your email inbox, they intercept you. They force you to pause and ask, does this new urgent crisis actually align with my declared focus for the week, or is it just noise?
And 9 times out of 10, it's just noise. That visible list is what keeps your priorities clear in real time. It's the mechanism that allows you to continually choose purpose over pressure, hour by hour.
So, bringing this all together for you right now as you're starting your week, the ultimate takeaway from Terrence Williams' notes is that you do not have to be a victim of your own calendar.
You really don't.
You don't have to just brace for impact. You have the agency to step out of the reactive drift and become the architect of your own week.
It all comes down to dropping that initial anchor, establishing your direction by defining your focus, finish, and forward.
And then using those visual interceptors.
Exactly. Utilizing those visual interceptors to protect your direction from the inevitable pressure that will try to hijack you.
Williams closes out his Monday primer with this really powerful mantra. He says, transformation is intentional. One thought, one choice, one step at a time. Don't forget the challenge, guys. Get your F-cubed written down and visible before noon today.
And as you take that first step and put your hands on the trunk of the car, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, lay it on us.
Williams tells us that direction creates momentum, and momentum creates progress toward the life you were created to live. But think about what happens after you build that momentum.
After the car is rolling.
Right. Once that heavy car is finally rolling down the street effortlessly, what comes next? Does your ultimate focus need to constantly evolve and escalate just to keep the momentum going?
That's a great question.
Or is there a point where we are allowed to stop pushing, take our hands off the trunk, and simply exist in the beautiful life we've intentionally created?
Something to really think about the next time you feel the urge to just go with the flow. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, don't just brace for impact. Decide your direction. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.